Alright, I decided to take today, the day before the league starts, to make an updated tier list based on changes I've made about these teams in terms of how I feel about them. Probably a little more simplified. Um, Worst teams will be an F, best teams will be an A, starting with the charge. I'm also going to go into a kind of a detailed view of their team to kind of see if there's anything I might be missing. Looking at the team, DPS wise, I like Happy and Eileen. Nero's pretty good. Never really had many questions about the DPS. I think they're a solid DPS section. Krong and Rio for the tanks are really where I have a few questions. Not sure about Krong. I'm not super big on him. Going into this season, replacing Hoppa, who was a really good off tank. Rio is. I thought he was decent all year. I thought he was average in my eyes. That's just from the eye test. And then we look at the support line: Chara, Shu, Waya, and Neptuno. I'm not sure if Neptuno is going to be replacing Chara as a starting support. I kind of doubt it, being that 5 of their starting lineup is likely going to be Korean. Shu's almost definitely going to be their off support. So I'm quite sure that Neptuno might not play. If he does, then great for him. I think both of them are pretty good supports, Chara and Neptuno, so I don't think that's going to change a lot other than communication and synergy within the team already. But looking at the roster, I'm definitely going to give them a C. I'm not like super huge on anyone on their team, to be completely honest. That's just me though. And then the next team is actually Toronto Defiant. I'll just go to teams. Okay, Toronto Defiant. DPS, Logic, Mangachu, Agility, Sure 4. These guys are. I actually like Sure 4 and Logix as DPS players. I think Logix is pretty much average when it comes to scan. I think Sure 4 is pretty good, above average. If he gets a chance to play Widowmaker, that's going to be pretty big for this team. He's not going to get a lot of chances to do that early on, I don't think. But I guess we'll see. Agilities, I think, is average to a little below average at the Overwatch League level. Same with Mangachu. Tank line, Beast Halo, and Nevix. I like Nevix. Maybe a little biased. I'm a Shock fan. Um, but I like Nevix. I thought when he played, he was good. Uh, Beast Halo is the question mark. I don't have high expectations for him, but if he's serviceable, like a little below average, I think that they can still do well if Nevix plays above expectations. Now, support line Roki, Kareev, uh, Kelix. I think Kelix is alright. So, honestly, Kareev and Kelix is a good support line. Roki can fill in or really fill in wherever they think he has a better hero, or a better grasp on a hero. I think the support line's actually pretty good. I think the DFS line's alright. In a league where there's a lot of out of this world DPS duos and sections within a team. I'm gonna put Toronto in that C tier as well, below Guangzhou. I was high on them before, uh, being a big fan of Logic's and Sure4, but after reviewing this team a little more, even with Kareev being one of the better flex supports in the game, not sure if they can put it all together, especially with Feast Halo as your only main tank, depending on how good he plays. I'll give them benefit of the doubt, give them a C rank here. Shanghai Dragons. Alright. DPS line. Dia, DM, Ding, Fleta, and Lip. I like this DPS group. Ding is, you could say, the best VAR in the league. Definitely up there with some of the greatest VARs to ever play it. DM, one of the best Widowmaker, especially against other Widowmakers in the game. And Fleta can play both these heroes at a high level. Well, I think Fleta just really adds flexibility to this DPS line that they didn't have last season. Where if you put Ding in or DM in, if they had to switch, you knew that you weren't getting their top potential. Fleta kind of fixes that, and if you put him in with like Ding, which I think is more likely than putting him with like DM, he can be your sniper. He can also flex too. Most other DPS you would need him to and play them at a high level. Play them at a high level for the league. Tanks, Gigeri, Void, Stand 1, and Fearless. I don't like that they still have Gigeri. I think that Void can play everything Gigeri plays, and maybe I think he's a little better at it. I think Gigeri should look into getting on another team where they're not so strong at the flex tank position, where she will get some playtime. She might get some playtime. Like, I might be wrong about that, but not exactly seeing it happen with this roster. Maybe her Zarya is better than his. I'm not sure. But other than that, I can't really see anything. Unless you want her to play Hammond, which we know she's practiced coming into season 2. But Stand 1 and Fearless. I'm assuming Stand 1's going to be their main tank. Unless something happens. Like, tank line, Void, Stand 1, not mad at it. I think it's average, pretty good. Like, average to good range. It's definitely a tank line I'm going to be paying attention to throughout the season to see how well they do, since they do have a really good DPS duo kind of leading this team. And then you go into the supports, and you have Luffy, sorry, Izayaki, and Lee Jae-gon. Is it Lee Jae-gon? Anyway, I like Izayaki. I like Luffy. I think that's a good DPS duo. I don't think that Lee Jae-gon is gonna play much. Um, Izuaki's kind of. I thought he was a little overrated at the beginning of last season. I thought when he was on the Valiant that Kareev would be a better flex support than him. Obviously, we've seen Kareev come in and do that, but him going to the Shanghai Dragons is probably best for him and Kareev. Kareev getting to show that he's still a high level support, and Izuaki showing that he's no slouch either on different teams, uh, allowing both their careers to prosper. So I like this support line. If Lee Jae plays, that's also pretty nice. I don't think that their supports are bad. I don't think any of them are bad. I think they could put any of them in and have a decent to below average support line. I think Luffy and Izuyaki are a good one, especially if you have Izuyaki playing Moira, but then you won't really have a Lucio player, will you? I guess Lee Jae-gon's going to be their main support, and yeah, pretty much just be their main support. If that's the case, then Izuaki's probably going to be the flex support, which I think is good. I think this team's going to be good. I'll put them in the B tier. I think there are weaknesses within their team in that they don't really have the bat. Like, I wouldn't say they're any of their parts of their team are top three, maybe even top four, but they have some good good parts of the team that are legitimate. Next is the Seoul Dynasty. Okay, DPS. Fitz, Illicit, and Profit. I liked Fitz last season. Um, I thought he was good. I don't think it was a bad DPS duo partner with Fleta when the playoffs came and he had to play the Doomfist. I don't think he was bad. Fleta obviously was the much better DPS player. With that's kind of what you expect. I think Profit is an insane DPS. So going into the season, I'm definitely going to be watching the Soul Dynasty a lot to kind of see if maybe I'm overrating Profit a little bit, but I kind of doubt that I am. I think this DPS Profit plus Fits or Profit plus Illicit is going to be above average. It depends how much weight Fitz can carry on this team, because we know from his time in London Spitfire, Profit carries a lot, tends to carry a lot of weight on teams he plays on. If you can get someone to kind of lift that other 30% successfully, I think that's what happened. You get what you had in season one playoffs when the meta favored them, and we got to see Profit and Birdring kind of play at their best. Tank line: Michelle, Marv 1, and Gesture. Alright, Marv 1 was not a bad tank. I think he was above average actually last season for majority of the season. I think a lot of his success was the fact that his team was playing really well. I don't think he had a lot of individual success, but he just worked a lot better with the team. Um, Jester's probably gonna be the tank, especially when you have Profit. You want that synergy between your DPS, your main DPS player, and your main tank. A lot of the time, especially if you're gonna play something like Dive. But if you're gonna play anything that really combos, I think the synergy is kind of helpful. We've seen games where Super was playing Orisa with Sinatra, and Super not being the best Orisa, still had good synergy with Sinatra, and they got a lot of big things done. I think Gesture's definitely going to play because of that. Marv 1 was a good Sigma. If I remember correctly, he was the Sigma for this team in the playoffs. If they want a Sigma, they can play Jester Marv 1. I think that would probably be their best tank line comp. Nothing against Michelle, but I'm not 100% sold on Michelle's flex tank yet. I think it's below average. Um, so I think their tank line is going to be above average overall. I think Jester kind of has that profit effect. Not really, but kind of has a. I think that he plays so well within a team that it'd be pretty hard to screw it up badly for his tank partner. And if they do, I think we'll notice it. Toby, Creative, and Medosian. Okay. Wait, what? I didn't know they had Medosian. Wait, that's huge. Um, okay. Toby and Medosian is going to be a really good support duo. What the heck? January 12th? Holy hell. I really like Medosian. I think he's a top 5 flex support in the league, maybe. I would have to do a deeper dive into that. But Bedosian's really good. He has a bit of an ego, but like what top player doesn't? You know what I mean? So I love Toby and Bedosian together. Um, crap, that support line. That support line's sick. I think that's one of the better support lines. Definitely the best support line we've been through so far. This team, I'm gonna put them above the Shanghai Dragons in B tier, because there's still some things that can go wrong. Their second tank, whether it's Michelle or Marv 1, isn't really proven. Like we haven't seen them have the individual success of a star player. Same with their flex DPS. Not really flex DPS, but their second DPS. I think Profit's usually the flex on whatever team he's on. But yeah, no, that's crazy that Bedosian's on that team. I don't know how I missed that. And then Paris Eternal. I'm not big on Paris. Maybe looking at the roster a second time will change my mind. Okay, DPS soon. Nico and Z. Z? Let's gonna call him Z. Not really. I haven't watched much of Z. Like I never paid attention to him, if that makes sense. I do a lot of rating with the eye test, seeing the kind of mechanical skills, decision making, all that players to seem to have. So it's kind of surprising. Not surprising, really. I'm not sure how much he's gonna play. He's probably gonna play with this team. I don't think Soon and Nico is a good enough DPS duo or a flexible enough DPS duo for him not to play. We'll see how good he ends up being, right? I think I've heard a lot of people pretty high on him in terms of this team's success. I definitely think that he's gonna have to be a big part of it if they do well. Now tank line, Ben Best, No Smite, and Smex. Ben Best was disappointing last season, for sure. The fact that they don't have LH Cloudy anymore is weird to me. I don't think No Smite really fills, and maybe it's just I haven't seen a lot of No Smite, but he's not exactly he hasn't looked like a great tank in the league. Maybe I'll change my mind this season. If Ben Best plays for this team, then I think they're both below average, pretty far below average. I might be wrong with that, but that's how I see them. Smex, I think that's a good pickup. I think he's a promising off tank that might be average, maybe start a little below average. So we'll see how that works out. Hip, Cruz, and Gray for supports. But I think that Cruz main support would be good enough for this team. I think Gray's they're going to be their flex support player, and I think the support line's below average, maybe average at best. But yeah, I think the DPS line is it's whatever. Soon's good. It's scan characters. Uh, that's pretty much all you'll get out of me for this team. I'll give them a. I'll feel bad about giving the first F. I'll give them an F. Whatever. Dallas Fuel. All right. This is one of the weirder rosters just because of the people they kept, not really because of the people that they picked up. I like their pickups a lot. Like, huge. I think their pickups are huge. DPS, AKM, Zachary, Decay, Doha. All right. I wouldn't be surprised if we seen Decay Doha DPS duo. Um, but AKM's a pretty good hit scan player. I think he's decent in terms of Overwatch League level. I think Zachary's so far below Overwatch League level right now. I think he'd be better off going to contenders, getting better. Maybe he's gotten better this offseason. I thought it was crazy that he really had any playtime last season. I don't do that harsh on him. Like, obviously he's a good Overwatch player, but in terms of Overwatch League level, he had so many lows last season and no highs. No personal highs anyway. But I mean, I don't if he plays, I mean Arrow likes him. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays this season. As kind of like their projectile DPS player. He's not really that flexible in terms of Overwatch League level. But we'll see how they use him if they do. Tank line. Note, Trill, and Gamsu. Okay, Gamsu and Note is a really good tank duo in name. And I think they're going to be definitely above average tank duo when they play. I don't feel like I need to ask if they can put it together. Gamsu played on a mixed roster in Boston. He can play with Note. Wait, no. Him and Note played together in Boston, didn't they? I like this tank duo a lot. It's taking a Boston tank duo and putting them on what should be a better team. And then you just look at your supports: Harry Hook, Unko, Closer, Crimzo. I'm kind of disappointed they didn't pick up a second Korean support. But I think Unko's pretty like really good. So Closer Unko would be good. Crimzo Unko. Is Crimzo a main support? I haven't seen him play in a while. Not gonna lie. Yeah. Okay. He's a flex support player. So yeah, Closer Unko. I think they're gonna have the same support duo. Harry Hook probably won't play anymore. He's probably perma benched. That tends to happen with supports. Um, I think the roster's good, but like I start looking at their team and like Arrow as your head coach. You know what I mean? I think he's good. I don't think any of his assistant coaches have proven to be good. I think Arrow can be a little headstrong at times, overestimating not only players but kind of himself in terms of how smart the strategy he comes up with is, how is he wants his team to play it. So with the meta kind of moving faster to a point where you can't really perfect it, coach is definitely going to be huge um, in preparing their players to play every game. I would say every week, but it's not football. They play more than once a week. But yeah, I, we'll really see how this team comes together. I think that's really the question is, can they come together? They have a pretty good roster. In fact, I'll give them above Toronto and see. If this keeps up, Toronto might get bumped down to three to D. But actually, now we go to Fusion, Philly. As a Eagles fan and a moderate like 76ers fan, I kind of hoped that this team would be a lot better than it's been for 2 seasons. We made a championship appearance, but on a season where it was kind of pedestrian, the team overall. DPS, Carpe, EQO, Ivy, and Chipsa. I love this DPS lineup. Chips is obviously the like kind of weird exception, but if it comes to Doomfist meta, he is, at least in my opinion, one of the best Doomfists in the world on the ladder. We'll see if he's gonna end up. We'll see if he's one of the best DPS Doomfist players in the world. Period, not just on the ladder. When you actually have teams coordinating to kill you, uh, I'm not sure if we'll actually get to see him play, but wouldn't be surprised. I think a lot of people would be surprised to see him play. I wouldn't be surprised. He's a really good Doomfist. It's kind of like in basketball picking up a 3-and-D player, uh, kind of out of nowhere just to fill a roster spot. Even if you don't expect him to play, just kind of having that opportunity to put someone in who can be effective when he comes in. Where's EQO from? I don't actually know this flag. Israel, huh? I didn't know that was Israel's flag. Learn something new every day. Carpe's good. I think he's above average DPS player. I think EQO is far above average when it comes to DPS. I'm pretty big on EQO. I think Ivy's uh, average. I didn't see him a lot on DPS in recent memory, so maybe my memory's playing tricks on me. But I think he's maybe a little above average. Um, let's see what Wikipedia lists his hero pool as. Genji, Fire Tracer, Zarya. Okay. Based on that, he's not really gonna be a hard replacement for Carpe, but I think if Carpe is doing poorly, you can definitely put Ivy in with EQO to run some strategies. If they're gonna have enough time per meta to kind of think of those some of those creative strategies that they would do with Ivy and EQO, I'm not sure. But I think this is the season Carpe can take back his title as kind of the best DPS player on this team. I'll be looking forward to it. Tank, Poco, Sato, Fury. Fury's one of the best tanks in the world. Um, I don't think anyone's really gonna dispute that. He kind of lifts his main tank to new heights. I think he has that kind of capability. I don't think Poco's gonna play for this team, but he's a big name. He's popular. He'll sell jerseys. You know what I mean? Sato. I didn't like him last season. I thought he had like decent highs and just like some crashing lows. There were times in the season where I thought he was the problem with the team. Um, but having Fury as his kind of a wingman will definitely be pretty huge. I'll definitely be looking out for that. Seeing how well those two do together. Supports. Fury? Oh, wait, what the hell? Okay. Boombox, Alarm, and Funny Astro. If Boombox plays over Alarm, I would be very surprised. Funny Astro's gonna play. If Who Are You gets in the MVP voting and they do what they did last season and that the MVP voting candidates aren't in the Rookie of the Year candidate selection, then I would expect Alarm to take Rookie of the Year this year. I'm pretty high on Alarm. Uh, or maybe being in the MVP discussion really depends on how good he does. I definitely think it's between him and Who Are You in terms of Rookie of the Year and an MVP candidate rookie this season. Funny Astro, I think, is a solid support. I think he's probably going to be below average for the league, but I think Alarm will kind of lift him to that above average support line. So I think that team's actually pretty good. Definitely a team I'll be watching for this season. I'll put them high B, really. Next team would be Gladiators. I actually like their intro song. I think most people don't. It's kind of corny. I like corny things though. I actually love puns. Anyway, DPS, Birdring, Mirror, Jaru. We'll see what this DPS group does for this team. I'm not sure how much Jaru will play. I think they're going to be relying on Birdring to kind of be the kind of veteran DPS presence of this team, which I wouldn't do for Birdring because kind of I think he has a huge ego problem. Like earlier, I stated that what good player doesn't have an ego, but an ego problem for me is when your ego kind of gets in the way of you or your team actually winning. And I think Birdring might have that for this team. Not for this team, but for the Spitfire last season. We'll see how he does on this team. Also going into a mixed roster, it's surprising. It surprised me that Birdring was he traded or was he picked up as a free agent? If he was traded, then I guess he didn't really have a choice. But if he was picked up as a free agent, like that's very surprising. We'll see how they do. But I think whoever's other DPSs will have to do a decent amount. I don't think Birdring's some insane DPS. I think that Profit kind of opened things up for him on his previous team. He is a good Widowmaker player. I think he's going to be an average DPS player next season. I think he's a big name DPS player that kind of didn't really. I'm not going to say he didn't earn his big name. He definitely did. I'm not sure if he deserved it. I think the DPS line is going to be maybe a little below average overall. Tank line is Space, OG, Bishu, and LH Cloudy. Really surprised Bishu's still in this team again. Very surprised. I don't think he's going to play at all. I don't think most people think he's going to play at all. LH Cloudy is a weird case. I think he's below average, maybe average tank wise. OG is above average. I don't think anyone's going to argue you there. So I don't know if LH Cloudy really has a chance to play. And Space is obviously one of the best flex tanks in the world. So I think the tank line is actually one of the best in the league this season. Top 5, I think. Top 3, maybe? I don't know if I'd go that far. We'll see. Support line, Shaz, Big Goose, and Paintbrush. You can really just stop at Shaz and Big Goose. It's an insane support line that's been together for a long time. They're still doing it after all this time, uh, at a high level. Uh, I have a lot of faith in them. I think they're a far above average support line. Probably a top 6, 7 support line in the league. Uh, so I think this team's pretty good. I think DPS is their only real question, which is why I'll because DPS is kind of important. May Reaper being a thing, I think that they'll actually be like up here. I think there's a lot of good teams this season. We'll see how it shakes up record wise. Usually when you have a lot of good teams, the top teams don't have like the insane like only 3 losses in the season type records. They end up with like 5, 6, 7 because the competition's actually high. So we'll have a lot of closer teams. I think this season. I might be wrong about that, but we'll see. Bacon Jack, Jinmu, and Leave. I think this is a great DPS score. Like, great. Um, if this team stays together, this might be kind of like a Chinese dynasty, and that they might be the best nationally Chinese teams, like the players actually being Chinese, like by far. I think Leave is an insane DPS player. Same with Jinmu. Bacon Jack is kind of a weak link, but he probably won't play unless they. Yeah, he probably just won't play, honestly. uh, not much anyway. Maybe in spots where you want Leave in and a Widowmaker player that's not Leave, because you want Leave to play like a Tracer or something. If we get into a spot like that, I wouldn't be surprised if Bacon Jack came in and just played Widowmaker or like McCree, something like that. And then we go to our tank line: Elsa, Late Young, Ameng, and Ting. I think Ameng's a good Hammond. His Reinhardt looked pretty bad to me. Like aside from that one game he had against Pomper where he was shattering him constantly. Like that was probably the best Reinhardt game he's played in his life. Because outside of that game he did not look great. Um, if this team plays dive, like a Hammond Diva dive, even a Hammond Winston dive, they could be like really scary with this roster. If they ever get a chance to really do that. But overall, you know, I'm not huge on their tank line outside of when they're playing some type of a divey Hammond based composition, especially when you have Leave on your team. You can kind of follow up on a lot of that much more effectively. Not much more effectively, a little more effectively than you did last season. I think the tank. I'll rate their tank line like average, just because of the flexibility issues I see with it. Maybe I'm wrong about their flexibility, but from what I've seen, it's not the most flexible. Joe and Yveltal, they're not gonna change for Molly and Link. So sorry. Um, maybe they do. Maybe Molly and Lynx is just some insane support duo that's gonna, take the league by storm and have the best stretch of their lives. But I think Joe and Yveltal were decent support duo, and I think they're gonna continue to be that for this team. This team I'll rate here. I just don't really trust their tank line that much. I'll put them here. I think the DPS line is gonna be insane though. That's gonna be a lot of fun to watch. Washington Justice. I'm pretty high on Corey, so it's gonna be interesting to see where I actually rank these guys. To me, like I don't have any predetermined rankings on this stuff. They have 7 players. Wait, 8 players. DPS. Corey, Stratus, and Tuba. Corey and Stratus is a really good DPS duo. I don't know if they're meta proof, like some of the other DPS groups that will have. See what Tuba really fills in here. Really a projectile player. That's what I thought. I think Corey's an insane DPS player. If Widowmaker's played a lot, even with the nerf, I wouldn't be surprised if he becomes an MVP candidate this season, because he also plays really good Hanzo. If they buff him back up, if they ever decide he's not great. Honestly, even if they don't, in double sniper spots, if you want to play that like on Havana, this team was definitely a team to look out for. Elivel, Lullish, and Roar. I like the pickup for Roar. A lot of people think that Lullish and Elivel should be tank duo. I didn't like how they looked in the World Cup. Maybe they didn't have enough time to prepare. I thought they looked pretty sorry as a tank duo in World Cup. But I think Roar, being the main tank, probably bust this team up to like a slightly below average tank line. And then support line, you have Aim God and Arc, which I think is average. Maybe a little below average. Overall, team's not super strong. I'll put them here because I think they'll definitely have a better chance of putting together. I'm putting Toronto down a tier because of how many teams just ended up above them. Really, I might do a 5-5-5 or 4-4-4-4-4 type thing here. We'll see. Limited to 4 per category or per ranking. Mayhem. I love that they went to Florida. The classic Florida colors. I like when the Miami Heat did it with their alternate jerseys in the NBA. I just think it's one of the best like city known color combinations in the U.S. Not gonna say the world because I don't know how the world culture in terms of like cities with color codings, not codings, but color. You know, screw it. DPS line: Saya player, BQB, and Yaki. Yaki's gonna have to be huge for this team to do anything. Really, I like Saya player, not that much. I think BQP was disappointing. I think the support line's below average. Tank line: Fate, Gargoyle, Carrion. I don't. I like Gargoyle. I think he's average, below, above average. He definitely surprised me when I watched him. Um, Fate, I was like, I think he's above average sometimes. Right now, for me, sitting in that average area, a lot of tanks end up main tanks because they don't like. They're not bad, but they're also not gonna be the reason your team's winning, if that makes sense. Fate definitely can be the reason your team's winning. I'm not that high on him right now. I don't think Carrion's gonna play for the most part. Support line: Chris, Byram, and Gangnamjin. Definitely should have replaced the rest of their support line if you ask me. But I think the support line's definitely going to be below average this season. That, yeah. Not a big fan of the team, as you can tell. Just a roster. It's kind of rough. In New York, Excelsior. DPS, Savio, Libero, Nene, and who are you? The question for me is who are you play over Libero? Both really projectile specialists. I would definitely play who are you over Libero. I think Libero's insane though. There could definitely be some internal problems with this team. It's not like the Shock where their kind of hero pools kind of work around each other. There's a lot of overlap within these four DPS players. I can't. It's really hard for me to find a spot where Sabiobi plays outside of Reaper when you have Nene on this roster. I feel like any meta where you can play Widowmaker, you might also want a sniper. I think Nene can give you both Widowmaker and Tracer at a high level. Even if he's not as good as Sabiobi at Tracer, I think his Widowmaker, as good as it is over Sabiobi's, kind of makes up for that. And if you're playing double hit scan and you're playing a dive comp with a Tracer, Sabiobi Nene, could definitely work. But for the most part, I think they're probably going to run with Nene, who are you, uh, whenever they're not playing Reaper May. Libero is probably going to be their May player. Sabio is probably going to be their Reaper player. If May Reaper is in fact the DPS lineup early season for the first month. We'll see how they do after that. Like I think their DPS overall far above average. I don't care what DPS duo they put in. It's gonna be one of the better DPS duos in the league. No, that's barring Sabiobi Nene. Um, obviously, but any other DPS duo they put on their team, it's gonna be one of the best in the league. Tank line: Mono, Hoppa, and Bianca. Mono and Hoppa are gonna have a great year together. Hoppa's not as good as Mako in my eyes. I don't think there's like a huge gap between them. I just don't see Hoppa being as good as Meko. I think the take line's gonna be far above average. I think Mono's really good. So support line, Chonak, Animo, the classic, still gonna be one of the best support lines in the league, if not the best. Uh, Overall, insane team. I think they're the second best team in the league. Maybe the best if the Shock can't really put it together this season. In a season where Sinatra can't really. I'll get to them. Houston Outlaws. All right. DPS: Linkser, Dante, Blase, and I think Hydration is gonna be a tank for them. I wouldn't be surprised if he played tank for them. He probably plays some DPS as well, so I'll say Hydration as well. DPS wise, Hydration and Blase have a lot of overlap. I think Hydration's a much better DPS player than Blase, but there's definitely some overlap. We also know that Blase doesn't like playing tank. We know Hydration is pretty chill when it comes to doing what he needs to win for his team, so he'll play tank if they want him to. Dante is a good sub. Other than that, I don't think I wouldn't play him over anyone else for any other character. I think Link's is a better tracer than Dante for sure. Not for sure. It's definitely close between them, but especially other than that, so once you get past Sombra and Tracer, I really wouldn't put Dante in for anything. His Pharah looked terrible last season. His Hanzo looked terrible last season. Kind of disappointed that Jank left because he was actually really good at both those heroes for this team. Um, but even without him, I think this team's DPS line's average. It's gonna be weird to see if Linkser can kind of pick up the hit scan duties, being with a whole bunch of projectile players. Because at the heart, Dante, Genji, Junkrat, that's really what you're gonna want him to play if Sombra's not meta. Maybe Tracer, but you're really gonna want him on projectile heroes, which you can get Hydration and Blase for anyway. I'm not gonna say that they should get rid of Dante, like trade him and get something good for him. Because I think it always helps to have the best Sombra in the league in your pocket, but also I like Dante, so I don't want to see him get traded twice. Even if it is for him to play. Getting traded a lot is never a good feeling. Um, so yeah, team's gonna be DPS line, average. Now Linkser does have these spots where you can pop off and look insane on hit scan. So there's definitely gonna be spots where this DPS line looks a lot better than they are. Spree, Muma. I'll put Hydration on this tank list, and then Meko. I think Mecha's a really good tank. Muma, I think, is average to below average. He didn't show me a lot last season or in the World Cup before that. Uh, Mecha might have been the worst player on an amazing team last season. Even being one of the best off tanks in the league, I think he might have been the worst player on an amazing team. We'll see how good he is in a new situation. I might have overrated him earlier this offseason. I've watched some more of his games. Try to focus in on him a little more. We'll see how well he does, but I think this tank duo, tank lineup, if hydration plays tank, maybe a little. I think it's not really gonna matter. I think they're gonna be above average as a tank line. Support wise, Rappel, Jexay, Boink, and Raucus. I'm not a big fan of the support lineup. Raucus feeds a lot on Zenyatta when he shouldn't. Maybe it's a miscommunication thing. That's definitely not going to help this season with a lot of new players playing. I wouldn't be surprised if they put their Korean support duo in over the American supports. I definitely think it would be a benefit to the team, especially if you put Meko in, just having half and half, um, and having that kind of grow together, where you have Korean players and American players, or not really American, but Western, I should say. I think the support line's below average. I put this team in the D. I feel like this team's has potential to be untapped later in the season. I'm not sure how good they're going to do early in the season. We'll see. Next is Atlanta. A lot of people are rating Atlanta really high. Let's see what I think. DPS Erster, Baby Bay, Edison, and Sharp. I think Erster is insane. I think this DPS could do a really is going to be above average, like off jump. Tank, Gator, Pokepo, FRD, and Hawk. If Sigma's in the meta, Gator's playing. He's a really good Sigma. He picked him up really quickly. I don't know if he's still going to be a really good Sigma with a lot of players actually practicing him and getting better at him. We'll see. I'm not a big fan of their tank line actually. I think it's below average, in my opinion. I was never high on Pokepo. So maybe that's why. I just don't see this tank line being that great this season. Supports Masa, Dogman, Fire, and Kodak. What? Wait. Am I crazy? Wasn't Kodak? Okay. Whatever, man. Anyway, I think Masa and Dogman's gonna be a good tank support line. Gonna be an average support line, maybe above average actually. But overall, I put this team here, which will bump these guys down here. And now SF Shock. Okay, as I was saying before, this team not really having Sinatra on his best hero, which I do think is Zarya. Like when it comes to that, like he might be playing Zarya if they want to play Ryan Zarya. They put him in. I think it would be the best for them. But in terms of DPS, he's really good on DPS. He's my favorite player in the league. But out of the four DPS, four DPS players they have, no, five DPS players they have, he's like fourth, third best in terms of like overall talent on like his entire hero pool. Yeah, I think. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Anyway, Sinatra, Architect, Rascal, Striker, A, and S. I think it's an insane DPS core. Either best or second best in the league. to New York, obviously. Far above average, obviously. Top three ranking, and then tank line, Mr. Matthew himself, and Choyobin and Smurf. Ignore that train. I'm hearing that Reinhardt is going to be meta early in the season. So, it's time for Super to shine, I guess. Shoot. In fact, Krusty kind of heavily leaned on Sinatra Zarya so much, I wouldn't be surprised to see Sinatra come in that flex tank position uh, on quite a few maps early in the season on Zarya if Reinhardt's meta, even if Zarya is not meta. Just kind of taking your star player's best hero and being kind of like, we can make this work because we have you in terms of Super and Sinatra as a great tank duo together. Um, Architect though? Oh wait, I'm thinking Choyobin. Most people say he's the best flex tank in the league. I'm definitely up there. Definitely top three. Uh, and Smurf, I think, is below average tank. Uh, Similar, I think Super's only really above average on Reinhardt. But, hey, you know. In a Reinhardt meta, I think this tank duo, Super and Jobin, or Super and Sinatra if they want to play Ryan Zarya, insane. Even Super and Choyobin if they want to play Ryan Zarya, it's gonna be insane. Now, any other meta where the main tank isn't Reinhardt, above average. Support line, Moth and Violet. I think that's an insane support line. I don't think this team really got any worse after Goat's meta. I'm gonna put them above them as a big San Francisco fan. I think most people would put them above New York. I do think there's a bit of an overrated sticker on Sinatra right now. Until that's what people believe, but I think that people are overrating him as a player. I might be wrong about that, but we'll see. Spark is next. When I put out my tier list, I kind of slept on Spark in a weird, like, kind of forgot about them kind of way. Forgot about their players, kind of just seen them as a GOATS team. When you look at this DPS line, Adora, Godsby, and Bazzi, it's a pretty good DPS line. Definitely above average in my eyes. And then Gushui, Rhea for your tanks. I think that's a far above average tank line. I think Rhea, I've never been huge on Rhea, but I'm a massively huge on Gushui. I think he's going to be an MVP candidate for the second year in a row this season. Definitely a role star. He just does so much on tank. And then support line IDK, Bebe, Coldest, Mika. Godsby or Bebe and IDK, really good support line. I think those are above average. This team's gonna be good. Right now, I'll put them in the A tier. Going into the next will be London Spitfire. Quick note about Spark. I feel like with their roster, they're a bit meta-proof. I can't really think of a meta where they just like dead in the water. Maybe dive if Tracer becomes prominent. You'll have a little bit of struggles DPS wise there, but I don't. They feel a little meta-proof for me, especially with how good they work together as a team. Um. All right, DPS line: Glister, Shui, Babel, and Although. I don't know anything about any of these players. Gonna be completely honest. Uh, Yeah, you're gonna see that a lot with this team. I only know anything about Krillin. He was very disappointing support. From what heard, uh, this team's not looking great. I'll put them at the top of. I'll put them there. No, I'll put them here. If I'm being honest with myself, that's where they're going. Next team is Vancouver. Slightly overrated this team, I think. Last time I made a tier list. For this season, Haxel, Stitch, and Somensu. Look, I like Haxel, but when he's not on Genji, he's an average DPS player. For me, when I see him, he's just not very great at Pharah, Hanzo. Like, I don't even like his Mei that much. Maybe he'll prove me wrong this season, early this season, really. Stitch, not a big fan of his hit scan. I'm kind of surprised that they allowed Huvrag to kind of leave the team and become a coach. Maybe Huvrag was kind of tired of not getting a lot of playtime, decided that maybe it was time to end his career early. But man, I'm not big on Huvrag or anything, but maybe they definitely wanted to keep him. Uh, so I'm not big on their DPS line, especially like early season. If we're playing May Reaper, this team's gonna be good for sure. Later down the line, I'll be watching. They're definitely gonna be good, but DPS wise, I'm not sure how good they'll be. Tank line, Janu, Fissure. I love this tank line. I thought all season long, I thought Bumper was a outside of Reinhardt less talented Fissure. Hyper aggressive, worst decision making. Not worst, but worse than Fissure. Um, Now on Reinhardt, it's gonna be hard to argue Fissure over Bumper, but it's definitely close, I'd say. And we're talking about prime Fissure, like Fissure when he's playing at his best. I don't know what he's gonna look like this season. Um, we'll see, right? But I think Fissure's definitely an upgrade, just an overall upgrade over Bumper. Other than leadership, Fissure's far from a leader. He kind of leads with his talent and skill, kind of like a watch this, I'll carry the team kind of thing, and the team follows. Doesn't really lead with like a actual shot calling or charisma type deal. So I think the tank line is gonna be far above average this season. Slime, Twilight, Mujehong. I don't see where Mujehong plays unless it's Ana. Maybe they decide he's better than Twilight. I doubt it. In fact, he even if he was, he probably wouldn't play because of synergy that Slime and Twilight have. Um, I think the support duo lineup overall insane. Maybe the best in the league. Definitely up there with the Shock and Excelsior for best support line. Maybe even the Spark if you want to put them in that conversation. But I'll put them below the Spark actually. I didn't expect that, but that's what I'm doing. I already know where both these teams are going, but Color Hacks, Jerry, Munchkin. Color Hacks and Munchkin below average DPS line. Tanks, Axiom Fusions, Muffin. I don't know how to say his name, and then Brucin. It's gonna be below average, probably far below average. And then supports, unless mine like even if Ryan's infusion's like a good Ryan, I don't think his flex thing's gonna be good enough to carry. I like Muffin. I'm not sure if he's Overwatch League level yet. Moonbong, Swimmer, another support duo. I don't know if they're Overwatch League level yet. I like Swimmer a lot. I think they're gonna be below average there as well. And if we learn from this list, if you're believing Everything I'm saying. Every team typically has something that's like average. Having everything below average in my eyes is crazy bad this season where talent is skyrocketing. And then the last team, LAV, Los Angeles Valiant. I like the team. I don't like the players on it. It's kind of unfortunate. KSF Shacks apply. KSP. DPS line is going to be below average. Like they're good players. It's just other teams have much better players. McGravy, Dreamer, Gig for your tank line. It's going to be far below average, I think. Um, and then support line is going to be Lastro and Rain. It's going to be terribly below average as well. I'd put them even lower. Put Paris up here. So that's going to be the end of this. Um, yeah, I actually think this is very accurate for me. If we're doing the 4-4-4 thing, like if we weren't doing the 4-4-4 thing, I'd probably put them down here and maybe put them here. Now I'd keep them here and then put like yeah, I'd probably keep it like that. That'd be the change I'd make. Uh, maybe put Atlanta up here. But yeah, you guys have a beautiful day. Anyone who watches this, and love you. Bye.